Let's talk Electoral College right now and the actual totals according to NBC News. 253 electoral votes for Joe Biden, 214 for President Donald Trump. Now, depending on the source you use, the AP has already called Arizona for former Vice President Joe Biden. That would put him at 264. We're going to stick with the NBC News. It is still too early to call those states because the lead in Arizona for former Vice President Biden is narrowing right now with President Trump catching up. All right, let's talk about Georgia. Highly important state, of course. The electoral votes are going to be mission critical for President Trump. That has tightened as well. We've got Biden now leading there with some 917 votes. Nevada, Arizona, Alaska, Pennsylvania, North Carolina also still too close to call. 99% of votes have been counted in the state of Georgia. The president and former vice president in a virtual tie, both at that 49.4% of the vote. Again, Biden has the lead according to the Associated Press and NBC News. Less than 1,000 votes separating the two. Interesting that Georgia will now become the center of the universe, really, when it comes to all eyes. Think about what is coming for Georgia. I mean, even next week, you've got the Masters being played in Augusta. And I want to have a little fun with numerology for you. The road to 270 for President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. 270, a magic number there with the Electoral College. But with the Masters, the golf tournament, the record low score is 18 under par, which is a 4-day total of 270.